What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to another episode of 10-Year Town. We have been having some of the biggest weeks ever for this podcast, so I just wanted to come on here and say how much I appreciate you guys listening, how much I appreciate you guys sharing this podcast with a friend, and for all of the people that have joined the 10-Year Town community, which you can do at 10yeartown.com. Thanks. Today's guest is songwriter Travis Wood. Travis is originally from Canada, but lives in Nashville now, and you know him from songs like Parmalee's Girl in Mine, which was his first #1 song, and he also has the current Jordan Davis single, I Ain't Sayin. You probably also know some of his other work with artists like Morgan Wallen, Owen, Corey Kent, and many, many more. I really enjoyed this conversation with Travis. We talk about his journey from Canada to Nashville, and he gives some really specific tactical advice on how to write great songs, how to write better songs. So without further ado, here he is, Travis Wood. Well, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah.
I ran into you at Creative Nation. I don't know when that was. Maybe
it might have been
6
a year
months
ago.
Yeah, somewhere like that. And I yelled over at you, I like your podcast.
Yeah.
And you had just started it, and I was watching all the clips and all that.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, dude, it's been fun, and I'm glad to have you here today. As I always start this thing off with the same question, which is how long have you been in town?
I moved here in 2017.
Okay.
With my then girlfriend, now wife. But I was making trips, like
Gotcha.
starting around 2014. In those 3 years or so, I came down maybe, I don't know, a dozen times. I would go back and forth from Canada
Gotcha.
to Nashville.
Yeah,
And then around 2016, I started planning the move, which took a bit of time because you have to get a visa to come down here and do it legit. So I did that. And
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So born and
but
raised.
2017 is the short answer. That's really when I moved here for real.
Yeah. Are you from, what part of Canada are you from?
Ontario. I'm from a town called Beaverton, Ontario.
Beaverton. Nice.
Yep. It's like 2 hours north of Toronto.
Okay.
And some people here are familiar with the Muskokas area where all the cottages are and shit in Ontario.
Okay. Not me.
If you drive there, you'll pass where I grew up.
Sounds
It's a little town.
Sounds very pleasant.
I'm overselling it.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's great.
I just went to the British countryside for the first time, so I'm you say cottages, and I'm maybe it's like that.
I don't know. I've never been to the British countryside.
Okay.
Was it great?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in a movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
2 days.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but you get a sense of it. It's one of those places. I'm very guilty of every time I travel anywhere, I'm I think I should move here.
Right.
I fall in love with everything all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny affliction to have.
Yes, it is.
I'm moving here now.
Yeah. It's I wonder, I could probably make this work, live here for a month, right on Zoom. I don't know. Time change, be fine.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're growing up in Canada. Are you, obviously you were writing songs before you moved to Nashville. So, so kind of tell me a little bit about that backstory.
Okay. My dad wrote songs.
Okay.
As a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bunch of jobs. He worked on the railroad. He was a garbage man. But he wrote little songs, around. He would play them around the house on weekends and stuff.
Yeah.
And whenever. And you kind of came to know. When I was young, it occurred to me young. As soon as I learned to play guitar, I think I was
yeah.
It was apparent that you could do that. Okay, that's one of the things you do with a guitar. You make up a song on it.
Yeah.
Because I was 7, or maybe 6 or 7 when I started playing, and really quickly started writing crazy little kid songs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Looking back now, it's wow, that's crazy how young it was. But that's when I really took an interest in it.
That's such a gift to give your child, I think. Josh Jenkins.
Yeah.
When he was on here, he talked about his dad writing songs.
Yep. I saw that and I know that. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
It never, I came about songwriting quite by accident.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
I was just 14. I had a guitar. I been playing guitar for like a year and a half. And instead of practicing, I was procrastinating, and I started writing a song. It's like, what's this?
Oh, wow.
What's going on here?
It really was by accident, even in, oh, wow. Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, you know? And then I loved it. I liked that a lot more than I liked practicing
You found
guitar.
yourself getting bored with playing other people's things. You just took a breath and went, whatever the hell I want to play. How about that? Yeah.
And like that's magic, you know? I mean,
right.
that's just...
So that's when you picked it up.
Yeah, and I just...
basically started with high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
so yeah, I got it from my dad. I got the idea quick from my dad.
Yeah. Were you playing in bands or?
Yeah, quickly, you know, by the time it was like we were the kid band in our little town. Like, you know, I mean, I must have been grade 4 or 5 when I had like a drummer over at the house. It might've been like me and a drummer for like a year or something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just started like recruiting kids around town. And I met still to this day, one of my closest and oldest friends via that. And we went kind of into our young adulthood playing music together before I went off and moved here basically.
Yeah.
But
and how did that...
We were in a band for years and years together, yeah.
Were you like doing it like professionally, like
no,
playing around?
We didn't quite get there, but we took the long road. I mean, we came out of high school and college. I dropped out of high school, and my friend Corey dropped out of York University in a music program, and the other 2 guys dropped out of another music program in Toronto, and we all, you know, we went out to California a couple of times and tried to make a couple of records and meet people. We spent a lot of time sitting around rehearsing for little shows in Toronto that weren't growing it, and then anyway, eventually, you know, that came to an end, and as it was ending, I was thinking about getting into writing. Yeah, like it had occurred to me like I think that might be I've been missing that path for maybe the last 2 years. Like that, I wish I kind of jumped on it earlier in retrospect. But I was still young, but you know,
yeah.
Well, I was so into it. I was into it my whole, you know, and then it was like took me till I was 20, I think, you know. 27 till I moved here, you know, 28 maybe.
Yeah. So. Yeah, dude. I was 26 when I moved here. So I get
That's
it.
very similar. Yeah.
You're just kind of trying to figure out your own thing. How did,
well, sometimes I see those kids out of Belmont or, you know, not kids, everybody, a lot of people, tons of people.
Yeah.
And I just like, that would have been cool to be like here when you're 18 and already have your eye on it, you know?
I think so. I reflect on that a lot though, because I had so much growing up to do that it was,
is the mic close enough?
Yeah, you're great, okay. Man. Don't worry about it. I had so much growing up to do that I think if I would have gone to Belmont and started trying to do this when I was 22, like I might have messed it up or like made like a mortal enemy somehow. Just cause I was, you know, I mean, I didn't do anything too crazy, but you know you're just young.
I totally relate to that.
Yeah.
It's such a good point.
Cause
by the way, when I moved here, even when I did move here in 2017, I did a lot of growing up after I moved here. In fact,
me too, brother.
I mean, everybody, you know, I guess, but
I
had kids, got married, and you know, our life really took shape here in a way that we wanted. Yeah. You know, but we got a lot of it now.
Yeah, man.
It really took shape.
So is there much of a songwriting scene like where you were living at the time, or how did you kind of find your way?
Where I grew up, there wasn't. So where I grew up, it's like if you're going to try and be in music, you leave here. Yeah. 1,000 people. Yeah. And you're 2 hours outside of the kind of the city. Yeah. In Canada. And so yeah, I started going there, kind of trying to make trips to Toronto and stuff when I was like 18. You know, we'd go do shows down there. Yeah. Hang out there, but then we'd go crash at somebody's house or back home, whatever. Yeah. But I met my wife there. And then, yeah, I had made just enough connections with my band that when it came to an end, there was people I could reach out to. Yeah. And go, as I was thinking about songwriting, I could go, what do you think of this? And I set my sights on Nashville really quickly too, like in a very kind of, you know, focused all my energy there too. But I was sending I knew a friend, now another really close friend of mine, Todd Clark, I knew he was coming here a bit. And he was in a band I loved growing up. I mean, I went to his shows, but I happened to have met him during my time kind of hanging out and doing the band thing. And I sent him one of my early songs, and he really gave me like a lot of encouragement and kind of became a mentor for me. So that's an example of someone I met there. And then from him, I met, Donovan Woods and Gavin Slate and a bunch of other people in Canada. But it's not a lot, especially if you're sitting around writing country songs and saying, hey, we're going to Nashville next month. Like, there's not a ton of that there.
Is there?
Everyone who's doing it is here. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And that's apparent. That's why it kind of only took me a couple of years to go, okay, I'm moving,
Well, how did you go about, because I'm sure there's people listening to this that are like living somewhere else, and trying to figure out how to get to Nashville. Now you're also, you were living in Canada, so there's like another wrinkle with like immigration.
What I did was, if this applies to someone in England or wherever, Canada as well, was I started writing and had met a few people, and just keeping on writing and working at it, you'll eventually meet people as long as you're doing some kind of like proactive, like reaching out, whatever it is. But anyway, we ended up getting cuts in Canada. We were making money on singles at Canadian radio.
Gotcha.
So that was enabling me to kind of do it. I would do that, and I would write for that during the day. There wasn't a ton of it. I wasn't writing nearly not even close to as much as I do, especially co-writing here. I wrote a lot by myself and did some sessions, but I would play in bars at night.
Gotcha.
And kind of make $400 a week or something doing that.
Yeah.
I drive all over outside of the city actually, and go play for $200 a night, maybe twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Me and my wife were like, we were getting by then.
Yeah, man.
But it was fun.
Yeah, those are good times.
I will say also, my mother happened to have passed away right as I was making this transition. Right around the same time, and she did leave my brother and sister and I, because my parents had separated. She left us like this inheritance, a life insurance thing, and it was like $50,000. And I really did use that to start my career.
Yeah,
to start my songwriting career, because I didn't have to go get a real job. I really could focus all my energy on it, and that's really the kind of like that's what works for me. The fact that I had nothing had to cut into it. I had that little safety net. I was playing bars. I'm writing. It's kind of growing. Okay. Like, it really helped me do it.
What gave you...
In a way that was suited to me. Obviously it was helpful in general, but for me to be like, I can just do this, it was really helpful.
Yeah, it gives you runway to like, it just takes a little while to sort of get off the ground. Yeah,
and my wife, after years of knowing me, we have conversations about days back then when there was conversations really early on, when it was like, maybe, do you need a part-time job? And I did go to an interview once, and it went really weirdly and poorly, and I didn't even understand what it was.
Yeah.
And my wife says that day was the day I was like, I'm not going to even try and push him off of this. Not that she was trying to push me off, but she was like, this isn't to do with the thing that he wants to do.
Yeah.
But we also need to make like $400 right now, whatever it was. We don't even have our rent money right now or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta
she said
survive.
That, yes. But she said that was the time I realized, like, oh, this is really like, he's going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was nice to hear her say that.
So, all right. So you're writing songs, you're in Canada, you're making trips to Nashville. Yeah. What is it? Because I am just very ignorant to how this works. Like, what is the process for like getting the right visa that you need so that you can move
so you
to
hire
Nashville?
an immigration lawyer. They're expensive. Relatively expensive.
Yeah.
And you have to have some credits. That was another thing that really worked for me. It was like that helped me get the visa. Back to your question.
Gotcha.
So like having some credits, having some connections in Nashville, and the government's way of understanding the music business allows for, you have to show it to them a certain way.
Yeah.
And I made the most I could of that application, and it took like 6 months to go through it with the lawyers. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
That took like 6 months, but then got approved pretty quickly, and we had already had a place kind of scoped out to live in already, I think, even before the visa.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And it's almost like you're like having to plead your case to a jury or
1,000%,
something.
Yeah. Just let me just live in your country because I'm good or something. It's like they give you the extraordinary ability visa. That's what it's called. It's a pretty cool visa, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's called an O1 visa. It's the extraordinary. I think it's called the extraordinary ability visa.
Love that.
Yeah. And my wife would always say, like, she would hear from other people with visas, and I haven't seen this in person, but she was like, your visa, it's easier with your, like, people will say how, like, no, they really, like, they give me a hard time with, like, and she's like, we just cruise through with your visa. So I was like,
there you go.
Songwriting thing is in the right category in the government categories.
You might just have extraordinary ability, dude.
Yeah, that's right. So do you. That's right. Yes, yeah.
So,
well, that's evidenced by the fact that there's like 200 people here doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just us.
I know. I try not to think about the odds, but so when you moved here, did you have like a publishing deal lined up, or
no,
just kind of took the leap?
Yep, took the leap, and I knew I could keep writing stuff for Canada.
Yeah.
And I made my first bit of money. I mean, everyone knows that U.S. is the bigger market, obviously, and I think people here like want Canadian singles, but they're like, sometimes they get one and it's like, oh, I got a Canadian, and I get that. But for me, people are like, oh, I got a Canadian single, whatever.
Yeah.
Made my whatever, 10 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me at that time, I had no publishing deal, and I was living in Canada making those Canadian dollars. Here they're worth less. Our dollar's like 75 cents on your dollar right now.
Gotcha.
But and I think it was then too. But my point is that when I was living there, that money was like, it was like, it matched the lifestyle there. It was like enough to live on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And so anyway, I think people want those, but they're just.
Yeah.
The U.S. is the thing here is the thing. It's like.
Right. Well, for context, like they say like a U.S. number one on country radio, if it's like, let's say it's a 3-way, right? It's like $150,000 to $200,000. Like, I don't know if that's actually true. That's what they say. Yeah. So in Canada, is a Canadian number one like
I would
10 grand?
If we want to talk specific metrics on can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Who says we can't do that?
We could do whatever we want.
We can do that.
Yeah.
When I was starting out, what I gleaned from talking with people here and making some money in Canada, was that it's like around the whole pie is like around $1 million for an American number one, sometimes more.
Yeah.
These like songs that are more like juggernauts.
Yeah.
And in Canada, I would say it's 1/10.
Okay.
The whole pie is $100,000. Gotcha. That's my point, though. But if you're living in Canada and you have a handful of those through a couple, and you own it all, it's like it was good for me at that time.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
Yeah, I still appreciate all this. I love a lot of the songs I wrote for the guys up there.
Yeah, dude.
And some of them are still my really close friends who live here now. Everyone kind of made the move. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right, so you moved to Nashville. You're writing songs. You got your visa. Like, how did you? Was your first publishing deal same place you're at now with Creative Nation?
So this is good. You like that? When I was just kind of setting my sights on Nashville, living in Toronto still, writing country, having some cuts. One of the first things I really did early on was started a SoundCloud page. But just by devouring all of it, I just found the writers on SoundCloud. I was, oh, look, Luke Laird has a SoundCloud page, or Jimmy Robbins had a SoundCloud page. Dallas Davidson had a SoundCloud page. The publishing companies had SoundCloud pages. So I would just put songs that I was proud of that we were writing that were just me and my friends, me and Todd, or me and Gavin, me and Donovan, or all of us, and I put them up there. And they said that was from like 2014 on.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, maybe 6 months after I moved here, Shayna Botwin reached out to me. And in her DM, at that time, she was at Creative Nation.
Yeah.
And she was like the junior A&R, junior plugger, I think. Like Jeff Skaggs was and she said, I've been following you on SoundCloud for a couple of years. It looks like you've moved here. Would you like, I work at Creative Nation now. Yeah. You want to get together and have coffee? And so we did. And at that time, that was about maybe it was 9 months after I moved here, so somewhere close to a year, because I had already talked with Universal as well, and Sony, and a couple other smaller companies. Yeah. But Beth and Luke and Shayna showed an interest that was like exciting. Like, it happened quickly. Like, I met with them, we had a great conversation. I think I wrote with Luke like 2 days later, and then the next day they called to say we're doing an offer right now. Wow. So, yeah, it was great. I was really excited when I signed there. Really excited.
It's such a special thing when you kind of like find your first songwriting champion, because my journey was similar to yours. It's like you take meetings and you feel you're getting closer. Yep. But you're never quite sure what is the thing that's gonna like take it over
what over the song or your trajectory.
I think in this case, what I'm talking about is like you meet with publishers and you're dying to get a publishing deal, but you don't want to say that, right?
Yes.
So you're just going, I wonder.
Those first deals, yeah, you're trying to act like you've been there. Those first meetings.
Yeah.
You're trying to act like you've been there before.
You're trying to act like you.
Or so I was, certainly. I shouldn't say everybody. Maybe some people haven't. But for me, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just do this,
Yeah.
This is the thing you really, really want.
That's right.
It's like,
and so just trying to figure out like what's going to be the thing that's going to make them actually that's going to get them to actually make me an offer. And then
really?
when it does happen, it was just the right fit at the right time and all that stuff. There's no like true magic to it other than like it's perfect timing.
You can't rely on everyone to see it, what you think you got.
Yeah.
It's just numbers. It's just a numbers game a little bit. It's like, I think I'm on something. I think I know, I think I'm kind of figuring this thing out. I think these 10 songs I sent them are really good, honestly,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just takes the right person. Totally.
Yep.
As for me, that was Shayna and subsequently Beth and Luke, but yeah, it was like, I feel like the first years I was coming here, I was like looking at this snow globe, and I was like, how do I get in there? How does anyone even get in there?
Yeah.
It seemed quite opaque to me, but then it's just like everyone says, you got to be here, and it takes a bit of time, but if you're good enough, and you're in the mix, and you got your boots on the ground,
you got to put in the work, man.
That's how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's very daunting. It's very scary to get started. And,
that's like you said, it's a little bit of a leap of faith,
Yeah.
So you have to have the fortitude for that. You have to have the, because a lot of people who you talk to, we all get those messages from people. I live here. I'm 44. Here's the song I wrote. I think we would write great together.
Yeah.
I'm in insurance.
Right. And it's like,
it occurred to us that we could come, it doesn't seem to occur to everybody that it's like, that is essential.
Well, it's, in most cases, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But
I can think of Lori McKenna. I mean, I guess there's some other ones in terms of like big successes who they don't live here.
Right. But most of them did live here at one point.
Yeah.
So
I always say, obviously moving, you can't just move here if you don't have the stuff. I mean, I always say the first thing, talent is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is discipline.
Yeah.
The discipline to cultivate that talent. That's the big number 1 and 2.
Yep.
And 3 is connections, like who you know.
Yeah.
And the first 2 things should get you those.
Yep.
And then the 4th thing is it's just timing.
Which is the hardest one.
Or luck. It's like kind of the same thing a little sometimes. I like to think I have a sense of timing, but I'm never sure. I'm like, maybe that was luck.
Yeah.
But I think I have, like, I think I knew when was the right time to move here and when was the right time to sign a pub deal. And that goes back to your other point about like, if I was here when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, yeah, I might have had a bad name by now because they caught me on the tail end of, chilling out,
Absolutely, man. So once you kind of sign your deal with Creative Nation, like how long?
That's what you were alluding to, right? That you were crazy. Like you would have been like, if you were here when you were younger.
Yeah.
That's what you were alluding to earlier, right? That like you would have. Yeah. I love that. It's totally true. I never thought of that before.
There's a couple things. First off, I just wasn't good enough. And so I think what would have happened is that.
But you would have got better faster. That would have taken care of itself.
I think so. But my fear is that.
Because you'd be focusing on it as opposed to, think of how.
True.
I don't know.
But my fear is that I would have like gotten meetings because I'm a hard worker.
Yeah.
But I would have not had the stuff. And then it's a no in their mind.
Yeah.
And then the no is harder to overcome than the we don't know you.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I also just had, I just needed to grow up. And I lived with my like 2 best buddies from high school for 3 years. And like we, did dumb stuff and put inflatables on the roof. And, I just needed to like get that out of my system. So.
Yeah. And if I hadn't moved here when I did, if I'd moved here for college, which I was never going to do, but I wouldn't have met my wife. I mean, so that's even a silly thing to say that I envy those guys who kind of were ensconced in it when they were teenagers, but it just like sets you on the path earlier.
No doubt.
But yeah, I'm very happy with the way things turned out.
It all worked out for you, buddy.
Great.
So you're at Creative Nation, and like, how long does it kind of take you to, I don't know, like, what was your first moment where you felt like, something's happened, like your first cut or just got some momentum?
Okay. So yeah, they brought me in, they signed me, and the calendar was like, full of writes. I was writing a lot right away.
Yeah.
And, looking back, those first 2 years was like a learning curve. Like, it was setting me up for like a big growth spurt. Mm-hmm. I'd also been playing with like doing production as well. I'd always just written songs, but leading up to the pub deal, I kind of was like looking for ways to just add to my, arsenal.
Yeah.
And I bought a bunch of gear and just kind of just started trying. So by the time I was signing there, I was like, I can do track work too. Mm. And I was kind of keen to do it at that time. So point is, and it actually ended up working out because they were able to get me in more rooms.
Because
I could do both. Yeah.
You were doing the track as well.
Yes.
Or nominally doing the track.
Yeah. So sometimes there'd be an instance of like, here's two writers that I would love to write with. I probably wouldn't be on that write with, let's say it's Craig Wiseman and Rodney Clawson.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to pull in the new young top liner from Creative Nation. They'll pull in the track guy,
Yeah.
Rooms like that where it was like, it was convenient to have, we'll try this young new track person that Beth said, or whoever says Shana says is great.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it always came a little less naturally to me than just bringing in ideas and really taking the ideas and lyrical melody stuff, all that, singing it. And but I did it for a while, and it really helped me meet a lot of people, and I got good at it. I think people are really nice about my demos who like know that I don't do it as much anymore.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, I loved your demos," But the problem for me with demos was with doing track work and I really, first of all, I really had a feeling that I could there was no limit to how much better I could get. It's just pure songwriting. Mm-hmm. And I could feel the ceiling of like, this is about what I can do with this with track work and production and making demos, especially in the room. In the room, it's hard for me to do. I can't switch back and forth.
I see.
And there's so many people in town who are way more natural and advanced musicians than me. Yeah. So like, I'm kind of wrestling with it. It really takes me some time to get it going, get a track going. So
yeah.
And then I need to just obsess over that just as much as I do with the song, but separate. So it's like you really have these two. It's like more draining too, because they both would pull me in like equally strong, Or I'd sometimes feel like I missed the song early on, because you're younger and sometimes people just plow through you, because you're newer. I wasn't that young, but
yeah,
you just you end up in a really powerful room and they just plow right through you,
Right.
But anyway, all I had to say, that helped me early on with when things started at Creative Nation.
Yeah.
Well, that's and then I kind of about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I started just scaling that way back, and it's been great. Like you just
focus on top line.
Yeah, I do tracks sometimes, but just not like before. Yeah, I do tracks when it's like, I really love this and I know how to do it. Actually, this won't be hard. Like I can kind of cherry pick.
Right. Yeah, you know how that song goes. Well,
I just think I know what to do with it. Yeah, I kind of can see it. Sometimes I don't know.
Right. Well, I think I just wanted to flag something that you're describing, which is really interesting, and I think probably helpful for people to understand is like, songwriting, being in this town and making songs, like it's a craft, and there's a craftsmanship to it, and even within the craft of songwriting, there are different skill sets that people are just naturally better at. Some people are just naturally better at top lining. Mm-hmm. Some people are naturally better at generating ideas. Mm-hmm. Some people are naturally better at making tracks. Mm-hmm. And some people are just great connectors in the room. They're like almost vibe guys. They make you feel 10 feet tall when you're in there. There's all these different little roles that you can take. But I think one of the benefits to just spending time doing it and being in the communities, you sort of figure out where you're strongest. Yeah. And then that allows you to sort of fine tune your personal formula. Mm-hmm. And, I find even as I go on, I'd say like, even in the last year, I've sort of like found a new gear because I have realized and my publisher has helped me identify where I'm really strong.
Yeah.
And so I try and like lean on that.
That's great.
More. And I think, you know,
just be more intentional.
Being more intentional, because being a songwriter is like staring at a ball of yarn, and it sort of takes some time to like figure out where the threads are going and how to start to untangle it. And you never get all the way, but you know, it's just super valuable to sort of identify I think for everybody, what is your strongest skill set.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You know, I'm thinking about that. I think it's like, if you can get yourself confident, I don't know how you do that, but you get confident.
Yeah.
That's a big one too. Once you start feeling like in you that I'm good at that. I think I'm pretty good at that. I think I've been good at this a few times. Like, you know,
it actually,
however you want to say it, but like,
but it actually starts to you exude the confidence. It's a very subtle human nature thing, but I had
and you get something out of the way. You get
the imposter syndrome goes away.
Fear or it just gets clearer if you're confident.
Yes.
But I don't know how do you identify your, I don't know.
Time.
I guess.
Time is the greatest.
I don't know if I
filter.
relate to that. I'm trying to think if I thought like that about myself. I guess I did with production. I was like, I'm not good at production.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, and it's not that probably.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. I guess I know what you mean. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that you're not good at it. It's sort of the realization of like, early on in my life when I was playing in bands, it was like, I know that my skill set is writing songs and I can play guitar. Instead of practicing guitar 8 hours a day, I'm going to be better off focusing on songwriting and hiring a guitar player to help me bring that to life.
Totally.
And I just try and like multiply that throughout my career. And it just takes time to identify what's, you know.
It's almost like that thing of like, if a lot of, you know, they say if like one person tells you're an asshole, you're not necessarily an asshole, but if like a bunch of people do, like you might be an asshole.
Yeah.
It's almost like other people, I got to tell you, your melodies are great, you know, whatever. And I think we do that in writing rooms looking at other writers. Like I identify writers who I love. I like, oh, they do that so well or this so well, and definitely make space for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I feel like there's this great melodist in the room and I'm like, I can write a melody, but I do really want to hear this person's melody because I know they got one probably.
And that's another thing too, is like,
so we kind of do it to I think I do it to other people a bit, but
well, it's good, but it's good to tell people because they probably
I guess it's
don't
all one
know.
and the same. Yeah, totally.
You know, it's hard to identify.
I think also you're in songwriting, you're trying to get better at a bunch of things. Like there's so many things you're constantly trying to refine, these little micro skills that just happen in nanoseconds in writing rooms. Like, you know, just like catching those like impulses, like, and going, like figuring out what it means and then just refining it. Like
that's it.
It takes it takes a long time to get good at.
Yeah. Well, tell me, so you had your first #1 song in
last fall,
was October 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about it and about the ride and
man, I was chipping away at Creative Nation, and I had become really friendly with Casey Brown when we started writing together quite a bit. I worked right across the hall from his old room at Creative Nation.
Okay.
And we had written a bunch, and I had gotten a few cuts. I'd gotten a handful of cuts. I think I had some Morgan songs and a Jordan song, but I had a Jake Owen single that didn't work, which we were all really excited about at the time, a song we all loved, and it kind of like went in the 40s and stalled. Yeah. So I had a couple of things leading up to it. I had a single with Cassie Ashton that did the same kind of thing, kind of hovered around in the 40s for, you know, the better part of, I don't know, a year or something. Yeah. I'm still grateful for those songs. I still love both of those songs. Yeah. But and then also right around that time I got the Parmalee single. It was something me and Casey had started. Okay. And then it got brought to Ashley. Yeah. And David and Matt and Parmalee. And like it was really fun because it got cut quickly. Oh, really? Yeah, it was like we wrote a start. They finished it like I think that day or the next day. Oh, wow. And then it was like 3 weeks later it was on TikTok, and then a month later it was at radio. It was like really quick. Wow. Yeah. Did
did it start to like have success on radio pretty immediately?
Well, no, I was watching all 3 of those songs at once.
Yeah.
I had gotten all 3 of those right around the same time. And I love all those songs, but I was really like, I thought the Jake one was the first one. I thought that one was going to go.
Yeah.
So that was like my first heartbreak of like, oh, it does happen.
Yeah.
It does. You don't get it sometimes, when you really want it.
Yes. The music business will,
or you feel like the song deserves it. It's like,
yeah, the music business will break your heart.
Yeah.
Many times.
But then, then the Parmalee was the one that kind of went all the way. I think it took 11 months or something.
Oh, wow.
That's about how their songs go. They're around that, but which is great.
How did it feel?
I was in Arizona. It's funny. I was in Arizona with my wife Mariah and our 3 kids, Rowan, Kieran, and Ren, with all of her sisters and their husbands and their kids when it went number 1. So I was with them celebrating in Arizona.
Yeah.
And it was one of those funny times. My wife, she's handles the finances in our family more than I do.
Yeah.
If she were here, she would say I'm understating that. But point is that we were celebrating and it was very fun and got lots of texts from friends. It was fun. It's a nice day.
Yeah.
But I obviously felt like it was like, okay, we got the first one. That's great.
Yeah.
And then my wife started asking about the PRO side. I remember like a couple of days later, and I was like, oh, I forgot. We're gonna get some money for that too. I forgot. Like I was preoccupied with the just achieving it.
Yeah.
Just the feel good feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then kind of trying to just ride that wave right now and just kind of stack them up. So
yeah. It's funny. The usually all of the stuff that comes from success, like the money or the whatever interesting new opportunities, are all like a symptom of success. They're not actually the thing. I think that.
What do you say? Say that again, Troy.
So I think what you've just described encapsulates like the sort of feeling of like what you wanted was to write a great song that could maybe become a number 1 song.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Then you get that.
Oh, gosh.
You're so happy because you got that. That's how you know it's the thing.
Yes. You're touching on something. Yeah. I love that. This reminds me of, I've been, reciting this line to friends in writing rooms recently, and my wife's tired of hearing me reference it, but Jerry Seinfeld, who I love, made a speech at Duke University or something, the commencement speech. And he had this line about having versus becoming. Don't think about having, think about becoming. And it just resonated with me from a songwriting perspective, like a lot. I was like, oh, that's so what it is.
Yeah.
You want to become a great song. That's really, and yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, I think I have that more than the other thing, which is good. I think,
Yeah.
Of like, do I want to be a rich songwriter, or do I want to be a great songwriter?
Yeah. It's
if I think here they're the same thing, but the point is that where is your perspective on it? Like,
well, and what's your focus? Because again, I think you can focus it a lot of different ways, but I just know my own. I
know that sounds lofty, but I think there's a lot of truth in that phrase, that becoming, having thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you just have to find like what motivates you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's right.
Once you're motivated, you're more inspired. You just do better work.
I'll tell you what, some people, it might be hard to know what's motivating you. Like if you're intrinsically motivated by something that exists here, you're lucky. But for someone to be like, I feel motivated and I know it's because of X, Y, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why I'm ever motivated. I don't even know. It's like, I don't know the answer to that, why I am.
Right. Desire.
Yeah.
Desire to be great.
Yeah. You want to be in the thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You want
and it's fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. It's like my favorite thing. Songwriting. It's like.
You ever just drive down Music Row and be like, I can't believe this is real.
Yeah, no, I'll try. Every now and then it'll pop into my head. Like, it'll pop into my head like, it's pretty cool you're here doing this. Like, Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to do, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's really inspiring, and I'm just, I really take all these kind of stories of people like going through it and getting like, there will be many more moments, but I feel like the first one is always so cool, and you love to see it.
Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, I always like to ask people if you could kind of go back in time and give younger you a piece or a few pieces of advice, what would you say?
Be yourself. Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think I could have figured out, this goes back to that, like, that Belmont thing. I think I just could have figured out my path a little easier if I had some kind of infrastructure that just kept me, like, I don't know, grounded in a way that was like, no. Just be yourself. Don't worry about, I don't know, what others think, or
yeah.
I don't know.
Do you feel
I
like
think there was some years, there was a big adjustment for me when I was like a teenager into young adulthood of like not being well adjusted. And I still don't consider myself well adjusted, but I was maladjusted. I don't think I was I didn't have like my potential in my sights correctly. Yeah.
And
that's very ambiguous. Sorry.
No.
Other advice would be think of titles, listen to lots of it, if you want to move to Nashville and write country songs, listen to the stuff, kind of study it a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Write by yourself. I mean, I like co-writing a lot better than writing by myself, but you got to write by yourself in the early going. You got to just do it. I find I'm more intrinsically motivated by like the exchange of the idea with someone.
Yeah.
Once I hand it off to someone, I'm like, it's like the volume just goes. It's like I just get more excited or something.
Yeah.
And I get them to confirm something too.
Yeah.
It's good or it's not, or I would change that too. Yeah, I agree. Whatever. So
yeah.
Do a lot of that, and when you're getting kind of good, remember that your songs probably need to be clearer. That's what I would say to people that are like, I'm kind of getting good. I'm writing a lot with some friends or whatever. I want to get a pub deal. I think it's a big thing here. Like it's a language precision genre. Like clarity is so king in the lyric. And obviously the melody is almost as important now. We really got to write like smashes, it feels like now.
Yeah.
But
what do you mean by clarity?
Of the lyric? Mm-hmm. Of the idea.
So
the clarity of the expression of the idea of the title, like throwing around a title and then developing the skill of like, okay, that's the angle. Let's refine that till we can all say it in one sentence. I mean, the song's about this. Okay, now let's start blueprint. I don't know. That's just the way I think about it. Like, and that helps you get a song clear. It's really clear, I think, once you can refine what are we really saying? Sometimes you're in a room and you're on the sixth line in the chorus and you realize that someone is hearing the hook differently than you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that, and then that can sometimes make the song less clear. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think all the smashes are like, they're smashes, and or all the whatever songs of the years. They're great, beautiful songs. They're really clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that before. It's such an interesting.
Yeah, that's like I think about it all the time. Just like what it could be, if it could be clearer. It just it like brings the volume of the whole thing up to me.
Okay, so
when it's very clear.
So if the title is like, I don't know.
Now I'm going very specific advice. Sorry, I'm giving bad advice to these young songwriters.
You're giving great advice, dude. Specific advice is great.
Yeah.
If the hook is
and move here.
My truck is broke.
Yeah.
So you're just saying every line in the chorus should be leading up to that moment. You don't need to be talking about something else.
I'm saying when you look at a line you just wrote, it's kind of like hole poking. It's a little bit of that. Like, when it's said like that, the language of that kind of implies this other that piece of the line conjures up this other thought that distracts me from the point. It just feels like it's out of place. Can we make it so that line just kind of goes by easier and doesn't feel like it steals the attention from this end of the line? Stuff like that, like little tiny things. All those things accumulate and make it really clear.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's super in the weeds. Sorry.
No, the weeds is good, dude. I think that helps people more than you know. So
the trick, definitely the trick of like, my friend Donovan Woods pointed this out to me, and it was like a light went on. It was years and years ago, but he pointed out something in a Dallas Davidson song, and he did it a lot. And not every song works this way.
Yeah,
but sometimes they do. That every line you could almost say the title after it. That's a way to achieve that kind of clarity I'm talking about. Like you could take the first line of the verse, especially the first line of the verse. You know, Gorley does it a lot too. That first line, the last line of the chorus. It's almost its own other thought. It's like, it's the same thought, but that's great. They speak right to each other, you know?
Yeah.
And almost, if you look at a lot of great songs, every line kind of does it. You're like, oh yeah, kind of. Yeah, nothing interrupts it, and it's just always a lightning bolt to that title.
Yeah, anyway. That's great, man. Well,
tangent,
dude. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Awesome.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
I have a new thing where I'm annoyed about people saying, blank here. Hey, it's blank here. And I think you should say, hey, it's Troy Cartwright at the start of your podcast.
Oh, I should introduce myself?
No, you say Troy Cartwright here.
Oh, I should say, hey, it's Troy Cartwright here.
Yeah, I don't know why people say, everyone says it. Everyone keeps saying, hey, it's Chris Young here. Hey, it's Chris Young here. And no one says, hey, it's Chris Young. And I just think that's a better way to say it. Why are we saying, I don't know why everyone on Instagram says their name. Watch it. Every artist does it. Hey, it's Chris Stapleton here, whatever. They all do it.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah. Why is everyone saying that? It's just, it's a weird way to say it.
It's a mind virus.
I think it's cooler. Here's what I think. I think it's cooler to say, if I had to do it, I would say, hey, it's Travis Wood, and this is the 10-Year Town podcast. Thanks for listening.
Okay. I gotta do the intro later tonight.
What do you think about that?
I love that.
Really?
I think that's brilliant.
I think you're the guy who should start this. Yeah.
This brings to mind something I think about a lot, which is like, why do we do anything? If you go back through time and you think about the width of a lane of highway,
yeah,
there's no real reason except for like a Roman chariot. That's why. It doesn't make any sense. That was like 3,000 years ago. Like, we can pick a new lane width. That's all I'm trying to say.
You're saying they should be wider?
They could be. They could be narrower. I don't know. I'm just saying, why do we decide?
You think we need to have a look at it?
I think we need to have a look at everything. I think everything is
well, that's a microcosm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, it's Troy Cartwright
here. Talk about going broad. I thought I went broad earlier. Troy just went, what if it's all fucked up?
Oh, I'm thinking about that all the time.
What if everything's fucked? Yeah, you do have there's like an introspection to your personality.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking way too much.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks again.
He keeps trying to end the podcast.
That's it. That's the pod. See you later.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, man. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at 10yeartown.com. We would love it if you would join the 10-Year Town community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.